All right, you guys want to start after the championship game? UConn showed that pretty much most everybody knew they were the best team in college basketball and proved it.
Yeah, I mean both really the men's and women's. It's kind of crazy what UConn basketball, men's and women's, has turned into. Because for the most part, UConn not very good in many other sports. It was like the early 90s when Jim Calhoun with the men's team, and then Gino Ariema obviously with the women's team.
Right.
When they took those programs over, I mean, you can make an argument that UConn men's and women's, especially combined, is the best basketball program in the country. I mean, back to back for the men's. The women's Gino's won like 11 national titles or whatever. They make the Final Four basically every year. So I know they didn't end up winning it this year, UConn women, but they were right there. So yeah, the men's team. I mean, I think to me it showed again why Big Ten basketball hasn't won a national title in over 20 years since the Flintstones in the 2000s. And Big Ten has had good teams, and a couple of those being Michigan teams made the championship game, but it's almost like they're not that elite level. You got Zach Edey on Purdue, who's won back-to-back Player of the Year. I mean, I think he's like legit. Some people want to talk about, is he just a big dude? How's he going to translate to the NBA? He seems like he's going to be a good player. Is he going to be like dominant in the NBA? I don't know, but he has skill. He can shoot. He can move. So I guess we'll see. But when they get to the championship against a team like UConn, they don't have the guard play to match up. It's basically they're just hoping that Zach Edey goes off for 40 points and dominates the game. And it just shows that, to me, the Big Ten has to do something with their style of play, because these other teams, UConn and some of the ACC teams, Villanova, when they were winning with Jay Wright, they're always like next level. And even as good as Purdue was, they weren't even close to as good as UConn. And it's kind of a shame, because it was a pretty good Purdue team, but it's similar to Caitlin Clark on the women's side with Iowa, good Iowa team, but clearly South Carolina is just a loaded roster, and Iowa, good players, and then obviously Caitlin Clark.
Right.
If it wasn't going to be Caitlin Clark dropping 45 points, Iowa had no shot in that game.
Yeah, UConn. I mean, what more can you say? They had won every game in the last two tournaments by double digits. It's like Dan Hurley basically said, it's crazy what we're doing. It's like we're making a really hard tournament look like freaking easy. Their offense is poetry, and like more so than I guess. Yeah, they have so much talent. It's almost unbelievable, mixed with great coaching. From what I understand, is like their offensive mastermind is actually like Bill Murray's son, who was an assistant at Xavier for a long time, Luke Murray. He's kind of like the one that's built this offense where if you watch it, it's like you can't even follow the ball sometimes. Like, I don't know how I defend this. I can't even follow it as a guy in the stands. And then you add in a lot of talent like Klingon and Cam Spencer. It's like, wow, this team is a freaking unit. They're very tough to beat. I feel stupid picking them. Again, we don't have to rehash my bracket, but Kentucky out. Looking back, it's like Kentucky, let's just say my bracket was perfect. If Kentucky matched up with UConn, it's like they would have lost by 40, it felt like. So just a stupid pick on my part. But as for the women's side, which I think outdrew the men's game by like 4 million viewers, 18 to 14 million.
Yeah.
One-time story that really was. What a great run. What a great career by Caitlin Clark. I mean, the thing that's been really weird to see, though, is and a lot of people have commented this, is like a lot of the WNBA players or retired players, like I know the former like all-time NCAA leading scorer from Iowa had like some negative comments basically saying how she doesn't believe like Caitlin Clark broke her record because she did it with a three-point shot and with a women's basketball. There seems to be like a lot of like hatred toward Caitlin Clark, like kind of coming in and bursting onto the scenes and really elevating the game of women's basketball to like a national audience like we haven't seen before. What did you guys think of like the kind of the negativity surrounding this all-time great player from players actually within that sport?
Well, I'll say this. So I don't know if you guys watched or caught any of the Bird and Taurasi broadcast that was on ESPN during the women's Final Four in the championship game. So it's Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi basically having like, the Manning cast during the Monday Night Football. That's basically what they're doing. They're sitting there watching the game. They have a couple interviews. They talk about the game or whatever. So they're two, obviously, UConn alums, two of the best ever in women's basketball. And they kind of went viral because what Jared's talking about, especially Diana Taurasi, kind of like throwing shade at Caitlin Clark a lot and saying like,
It was
you know,
BS.
yeah, and like it happens in the NBA too. You know, the old school guys don't want to give all the credit to the new school guys. It probably happens all the way down to the high school level. Guys that graduated 20, 30 years ago don't want to give credit to the kids coming through. I don't know. It's just something that happens. But it is strange to see, like what you're saying, Jared, when you have a player come through like Caitlin Clark, who is bringing eyes, bringing an audience to the women's game more than anyone ever. I saw someone compare it to Tiger Woods with golf.
Yeah.
You know, when Tiger Woods broke onto the scene, all of a sudden everyone was watching golf and trying to play golf. I mean, look at the ratings. The women's game is breaking record after record.
Right.
The women's games were rating better than the NBA finals, way better than like the World Series, basically because of Caitlin Clark. And there's other storylines, South Carolina, LSU, you know, but mainly because of Caitlin Clark. I'll say this. I was on the production. I brought that up. I worked on the Bird and Taurasi production. I was doing that. And what you saw, and I'll say this, what you saw on TV, they didn't even scratch the surface with what they were saying off the air. I don't know what it is. The producer even had to tell them to scale it back a touch.
Right.
Because that's why, like, there was a question. Sue Bird asked Diana Taurasi, like, who would you draft? Paige Bueckers or Caitlin Clark? And Taurasi basically just said, like, Paige, next question. Because what she really wanted to say would have been like, to what are you even saying? And I don't get it. I understand, you know, UConn. They're UConn alums. They love Paige Bueckers. Okay, I get that.
It's a little bit of it, sure.
Right, I get that. But I don't understand the Caitlin Clark hate. If you want to say,
is it jealousy?
Is it jealousy? If you want to say she broke these records because she was there for 5 years, all right, I guess you can make that little bit of an argument. The 3-point line, we've talked about this with Maravich. It's just rules change. The rules change. Now there's a 3-point line now. It is what it is. It happens in baseball, whatever. I don't get why when the biggest push right now with everything, even outside of sports, is to help women get more equal rights, fair pay, more eyes on everything that they're doing, that you wouldn't, in seeing what Caitlin Clark is doing for the women's game, that you wouldn't be just like celebrating it like crazy. Like, let's go. Yes, Caitlin Clark. Let's, you know, like you saw Ice Cube is offering her a contract to play in the Big Three.
I love that.
You know, you got to think about what it's going to do for the WNBA when she goes to play there. Like, it's weird seeing the old players like hate on her so much.
Yeah, I mean, I would like Diana Taurasi, but lost a fan in me with that comment. Just bizarre. It's like I wasn't alive, but I don't remember it. Like when LeBron came onto the scene, I don't remember this type of weird, like jealousy really is probably the right word. Same thing with like even recently, it's like Wembanyama. It's like when Wembanyama joined the league, it's like all the players are like loving him. It's like you hear a new post game bite every game after people play Wembanyama. So just bizarre, just flat out bizarre. If you would have, like, let's say Diana Taurasi, for example, I think she's like 41 years old. Caitlin Clark's 22, so it's like a 20-year difference. Yeah. What I would have preferred her do is, like, I get why it would be annoying, like Caitlin Clark getting all this attention. Wait till she joins the NBA and send your message on the court. Shut her down. Right. Drop 25 on her. Cross her over. I don't know. Do something like that. That I would have rooted for. This, like, tearing her down right when, you know, WNBA or women's basketball is having this moment, just like bizarre. And it wasn't just them. A lot of people were doing that.
Well, you know, it makes you kind of wonder, is it jealousy 100%, or is it, you know, since everybody is on the bandwagon for Caitlin Clark, that they're trying to be contrarians, you know, and be on the other side of the coin to stir it up? I don't know. That could be a little bit of it, but all I know is the eye test. And I've watched a lot of female basketball in my time, not as much as the men, obviously. Caitlin Clark has it all. I mean, she is the greatest female basketball player I have ever seen play, and lives up to the hype. I mean, she's not only a bomber from 3-point range, her passing ability is phenomenal. I mean, she passes better than the guys. I mean, she's hitting these girls on flat out stride with traffic in the lane, bounce passes, bullet passes. She's awesome, and she deserves every bit of the credit she gets. And the other side of the coin, you know, we had the whole controversy with Bird and Taurasi. You had Dawn Staley, after winning the national championship, giving her high praise. I thought that was a big time class move and gained me a lot of respect for Dawn Staley, who didn't need a lot more respect from me. I mean, she's a fantastic coach, but that was great that she mixed that in there for the women's game.
Yeah, I saw a graph. I think we might have retweeted it, or maybe I did for my personal Twitter page, but someone did a graph where it was basically like, try and do it on our video. You know, it was like assists on this side, points on this side, and then, you know, it's the dot graph for Caitlin Clark and every other girl in the women's game this year. So assist, points. Every other girl was kind of in this area, you know.
And it was men's players too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. And there was one dot way over here, and it was Caitlin Clark.
Right.
Because it was like people saying, oh, she's just a shooter. All she does is bomb threes, you know, whatever. It's like, no, actually, she blows people away in assists. She has more assists than anyone in the country.
Right.
More, I mean, her like assistant, she doesn't turn the ball over. Like, I mean, okay, you can, you know, it's like taking a shot at Steph Curry and saying all he does is shoot threes. Well, then you haven't watched a Warriors game, because Steph Curry does way more than just shoot threes. So it's just, if at this point, if you are just hating on Caitlin Clark, then that, like you said, Jared, you're just a hater, because, and like you said, Ted, her game is complete. I'll be curious to see how she plays in the WNBA. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to watch every single WNBA game, but I'll tune in when she plays against Diana Taurasi.
Yeah.
I'll turn it on and I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll watch this.
Yeah, and now it's just a new storyline about, like, I saw the Indiana Fever already up into a bigger arena with like 10,000 more seats for like her debut game. They haven't even drafted her yet.
Right.
But what an awesome, like it was, her game was just, it was hard to not love every second of it. Shooting from all over the court. The funny thing is, I remember like mid-tournament, there was like a zag where people were like, oh, Bueckers is better. She makes everybody around her a lot better than Caitlin does. It's like, if you watch Caitlin, it's like, I don't care how you get it done. If you put the ball through the rim, she like is almost leading the country in assists. She's scoring 40 points a game. Iowa around her, it's like, yeah, I would say she's making them a little bit better. It was just weird and funny. So I'm a big Caitlin Clark fan, and that's what you need to draw some ratings. Is like, you need the villains, you need the heroes. So it's going to be fun to watch WNBA next season. Like I said, Matt, I'm not tuning to maybe every game, but definitely I'm going to be following along the storylines on Twitter, and I will tune to those big games. So
yeah. Well, the big storyline was, you brought it up in the beginning. 18.7 million watched that final on the women's side compared to 14.8. I mean, I don't know if it had anything to do with the game being Sunday at 3:00 on ABC, but you know, still, it's impressive.
Where's the rant?
I'm not going to give a big rant, but the 9:20 start. I mean, they proved it in football. They proved it in football. They moved it up an hour, right? And it worked.
It's awful. Yeah. They need to figure something out with that.
We talked about the Super Bowl. There's been a lot of discussion about, hey, maybe it should be moved to Saturday. You know, it'll still get the giant ratings, but you know, I don't know. The Monday night at 9:20 or
I hate Monday.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I hate Monday. It's a dud like for football and for basketball. It's like, it feels like you almost lose the energy. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I hate Mondays. We all do, but it just seems like you lose something compared to that Saturday night Final Four matchups. Like that almost seems like the real big event is those two games on Final Four Saturday.
I assume it goes back a ways, right? Monday nights was probably big time TV viewership night. That's the only thing I can figure out. Right, that's where it all stems from, but it's probably time to change that philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because of Monday Night Football. I mean, they honestly, they could do something like, imagine if they would have done on Sunday, if they would have had the women's game at 3 and the men's game at 7, or you know, do something like that. Like, you know, I mean, I know it's different networks, obviously, and
still that would have been
but
ideal.
They could figure something out like that and do that, because Monday night, I mean, I'll be honest, I'll hand up, I didn't even stay up and watch the whole game. By the time clearly UConn was pulling away, I was like, I know one shining moment is amazing.
Right.
I'll watch one shining moment in the morning when I wake up. I'm going to bed.